Elections in Hungary are less than a week away. Incumbent Prime Minister Viktor Orban continues an election campaign built on anti-European and anti-Ukrainian rhetoric. Propaganda videos created with artificial intelligence are circulating online, while campaign posters for the ruling Fidesz party, styled to look like opposition materials, are appearing on the streets. And yet, according to independent polls, the ruling party has so far failed to close the gap with the opposition Tisza party. And in cities that were once considered Orban's strongholds, his campaign rallies are being disrupted. What are the chances that the head of the Hungarian government will hold on to power now? Let's find out. Right now, the chances of a Tisza party victory are quite high. Most opposition political forces have withdrawn from the elections to maximize voter consolidation around Tisza. And a poll conducted by the independent 21 Research Center shows that 56% of decided voters currently support it. That's 3% more than at the beginning of March. Meanwhile, Fidesz is supported by 37% of respondents, 2% less than 3 weeks ago.
I would really like to see some changes. I will, of course, vote for the Tisza party. We must change this regime, so I'm for them. I'm going to vote for change. I'm putting my hope in them, and I think many of us are hoping for that.
I'll be voting for the current government to leave. And I'd like Hungary to become a livable place. That's all.
The main grievance Hungarians have with the current government is corruption, which over Viktor Orban's 16-year rule has seriously undermined the country's economy and as a result led to a low standard of living. However, in the city of Gayor, when hundreds of activists at a campaign rally for the head of government demanded explanations regarding corruption schemes and the difficult economic situation, all the current prime minister could manage was shouting into the microphone and accusing the protesters of working for Kyiv.
You support the Ukrainian side instead of standing with the Hungarians. You want a Ukrainophile government and you want to give Hungarian money to Ukraine.
Hungary has a mixed electoral system with single-member districts, which traditionally favors the incumbent government, especially in agricultural regions. This means that even with a smaller share of the vote, Fidesz could win more seats in parliament. However, analysts are calling these elections the most difficult for Viktor Orban in his 16 years in power. And the thing is, a record number of people have already registered to vote from abroad. Most voters at overseas polling stations are young people who are drawn to the opposition Tisza party. In addition, Hungary is seeing a surge in so-called vote transfers. This is when citizens vote somewhere other than where they permanently reside, but their votes are counted in their home electoral district. The number of such votes in these elections will also be record-breaking, experts predict. And this trend is seen as favorable for the opposition.
An artificially altered map of electoral districts, a high proportion of voters living abroad, and minority representation in Hungary are three factors that help the Fidesz party offset the potential advantage of the Tisza party. But if Tisza stays ahead of Fidesz on party lists by at least 5%, then you can be sure that it will get a majority in parliament.
And while the opposition asks reasonable questions about inflation, corruption, and other pressing problems in the country, Fidesz, led by Orban, blames Brussels and Kyiv for all the troubles. The current election campaign of the ruling party is full of scandals. A photo of the president of Ukraine next to the head of Tisza, Péter Magyar, is no longer a new trick. But fake opposition posters are a fresh technology. In the city of Debrecen, unknown people put up posters with photos of opposition politicians from the Tisza party, but with one peculiarity: all the texts were written in Ukrainian. In addition, a video created with the help of artificial intelligence was distributed on the official Fidesz pages. The video shows a girl waiting for her father from the war, after which the footage shows her alleged father blindfolded and with his hands tied, and then he is executed. The content hints at what Viktor Orban has repeatedly said, that his main rival, opposition leader Péter Magyar, is supposedly going to drag Hungary into Russia's war against Ukraine.
Hungarians still believe that membership in the European Union and NATO is the key to peace and development for Hungary. I think this will truly be a referendum on our country's place in the world. I believe that Tisza will win a convincing victory in the elections because even Fidesz voters do not want our country to become a puppet state of Russia, a colony, or an assembly plant instead of being part of Europe.
Orban denies the dirty methods of the election campaign, which echo Russian practices, as well as the fact that Russian political consultants are involved in it. According to the Washington Post, they even suggested staging an assassination attempt on the Hungarian prime minister with a supposedly Ukrainian trail to boost his rating. It didn't actually come to that, though. But now, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić has stated that explosives were allegedly found near the pipeline through which Russian gas is supplied to Hungary.
For several weeks now, we have been receiving reports from various sources that after failed false flag operations and in connection with the collapse of the Fidesz party's popularity, Viktor Orban, relying on the support of Serbia and Russia, intends to cross the line once again. Many have publicly stated that something will accidentally happen at the gas pipeline in Serbia on Easter, a week before the elections in Hungary. And that's what happened. I call on Viktor Orban to stop, at least during the holidays, sowing panic and creating unrest devised by his Russian advisors. Peter Magyar, leader of the opposition TISA party, Facebook.
It seems that Hungarian voters also recognize the style of Russian political of Viktor Orban's campaign rallies, people chanted the slogan, "Russians go home." It's remembered in Hungary since Soviet tanks invaded Budapest 70 years ago.
Russians go home. 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 Russians go home.
Apparently, to leave no doubt among citizens about his ties to Putin, Orban called on the European Union to lift sanctions against Russia. The European economy is threatened by an energy crisis and further price increases, the head of the Hungarian government is convinced. And the only way to prevent these risks, in his opinion, is to lift the restrictions against Moscow. Furthermore, Viktor Orban demanded that the European Union force Ukraine to resume supplies of Russian oil through the Druzhba pipeline. But for some reason, he forgot to demand that Russia stop attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure and failed to mention the true reason for the oil transit halt: damage to the pipeline due to Russian shelling.
I demand that Brussels immediately lift the sanctions and restrictions on Russian energy. Brussels must force President Zelensky to immediately open the Druzhba pipeline, and we must reject plans that propose abandoning investments in Russian energy and moving to Brussels' more expensive and inaccessible energy policy.
There are only a few days left until the vote in Hungary. And while polling and voter sentiment work against the ruling party, the bet on harsh anti-European and anti-Ukrainian rhetoric not only fails to help, but seems to only weaken its position. The opposition wants the country to return to the European agenda. Will it succeed in turning Budapest toward Brussels? We'll see.